Now.
So we learned over the weekend that the president, courtesy of a request coming from Kristi Noem, Homeland Security Secretary, will be sending federal troops, National Guardsmen, to the city of Portland to help with the unrest outside of the ICE facility downtown Portland, about 2-ish miles away from sort of the downtown core of Portland. They have been under siege for the last several months, since June, almost nightly, not quite nightly, but almost, in which radicals, including Antifa radicals, have committed acts of violence, vandalism, all with the intent of chasing out ICE. And in between the time they supposedly run because they're so scared of Antifa, they would not be able to do their jobs. Oftentimes what it is that the Antifa thugs and others do is they get in the way, they block the sally port, which is the entrance exit for vehicles out of the ICE facility. And it's really curious because ICE, I'm told, courtesy of an investigation from the city of Portland, has been violating the terms of their agreement to use this facility by keeping people in their custody longer than 12 hours and in some rare cases for 24 hours. And yet Portland Police Bureau is not allowed to make arrests of the activists who are blocking the entrance and exit of this facility, which means ICE might not be able to remove someone in their custody from this facility in the 12-hour time span, depending on the circumstances outside. So finally, Trump said, enough is enough. I'm sending in the National Guard. And to be clear, we don't yet know specifically what the plan is. He has not put that out there. This does not sound like what was happening or what is happening in D.C. There's been no indication that he plans to use them to help supplement, for example, the Portland Police Bureau. He wouldn't be able to just do that. At least I don't think he would be able to, and I don't think a court would allow that. But when it comes to protecting the federal law enforcement officials and the facility, he is well within his right to do so using the National Guard. Now, we can have a debate as to whether or not you think it's the right thing, but you've got some folks like Tina Kotek, the governor of Oregon, Keith Wilson, the mayor, Ron Wyden, the senator, Maxine Dexter, congresswoman, pretending, number one, that the president doesn't have that kind of power, and number two, it's not necessary either. We saw lots of videos from lawmakers over the weekend telling us that there was no problems whatsoever in Portland. And Tina Kotek, Keith Wilson, some others, they had a press conference about 2.5 miles away from the location of the near nightly riots and unrest, claiming that everything is fine. Ron Wyden takes a video of the ICE facility in downtown. He did this on Saturday. It was a gorgeous day out, and he's nothing to see here. This is just a beautifully peaceful area. Of course, he didn't note that during the day, no one has complained about anything, and then the whole boarded up windows covering the entirety of the ICE facility, which I suppose we're supposed to pretend is some kind of, I don't know, decoration. This was a choice, a fashion design of some kind. Of course not. We know exactly what's going on. We are being lied to, all of us. National media that doesn't really cover Portland and doesn't cover the Pacific Northwest either, they just are being lied to, and they will run with it. Tina Kotek, the governor, said Portland is safe and calm. Now, some of what they're doing is trying to claim that the president is sending troops to, like, go door to door and find bad guys, which, again, is not what this is about. This is about specifically ICE. It's nothing but propaganda. It's gaslighting. It's gaslighting. The city of Portland X account wrote, "We're hearing a lot about our hometown in the media. This is our Portland today. People visiting Saturday market, feeding geese, sipping espresso, biking, playing in the park, and going to food carts." Now, this is transparent propaganda. This could literally be called propaganda. It's coming from a city-run account. And according to these Democratic leaders, according to the talking heads on TV, Portland is practically a Norman Rockwell painting. families riding bikes, kids feeding the geese, young professionals sipping their oat milk lattes while Instagramming food cart tacos. Gluten-free, of course. That's the image Portland officials want you to buy, even as these nearly nightly riots at the ICE facility did, in fact, turn that neighborhood in Portland into a war zone. And all you have to do is talk to the people who live there. And because they ignored it, because they did not allow the Portland Police Bureau to get involved and help tackle some of the crime, well, guess what happened? Trump said, okay, you're tying my hands here. I'm going to do something. Send in the troops. So the rioters and activists, the extremists, the radicals, and some looky-loos, along with a lot of independent media in particular, showed up last night en masse, and they did what they do. I guess they couldn't coordinate their messaging there. Why are you in riot gear? We don't see no riot here. Well, because you've previously rioted. That's why. They're doing it so that they don't get harmed, which is your goal. That's the goal of the activists. Here's some more chanting, courtesy of our friend Brandy Cruz. No fear, no hate, no ICE in our state. Now, they're open about their political goals, right? I mean, they don't hide their goals. They don't want immigration enforcement because, like so many on the left, they make no distinction between a criminal illegal immigrant and an illegal immigrant who is your abuela. Where did we get that from again? Was that The View?
Abuela?
Yeah.
I think AOC was the first person to use the term.
They're your abuela. They're your farmers. They're making your kale salads and smoothies. Which, hey, if they're going to pretend that's not racist, okay. Katie Davis Court was out there. She had to get escorted out of the little area by Portland PD because protesters were trying to harm her.
Don't come back. Stay in Seattle, Katie. You useless.
One protester pretended to shoot at federal agents, which seems like a misstep, especially at night when it's not clear if you might have something in your hands. Seems kind of silly. That's not how a bullet sounds, by the way.
I say low scores on the gun sound effects.
Bow, 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 bow.
Have you ever seen a Western or anything?
Yeah, I mean, come on. At least go like, you got to have a little bit of. Portland police had to issue warnings about an arrest saying, hey, we're going to make a targeted arrest here, dummies. So why don't you clear the streets?
If you interfere with officers, you may be subject to arrest or use of force. For the safety of all involved and under authority of City Code 14C.30.030
Oh, I thought it
and
was
the Portland
302.
Police Bureau's authority to direct traffic on public ways, you are ordered to move to the sidewalk.
Oh, you are ordered. They really took that to heart. They said, okay, well, I thought you were suggesting, but now that you're ordering it, we'll go ahead and move on over. So this is going to continue tonight. This will continue tomorrow. This will continue on Wednesday and Thursday. Probably dip a little bit on Thursday, then get big again on Friday. Whichever day the National Guard are used is when you'll see it go nuts. Oregon is suing, they'll lose. Maybe they'll find some lower court judge that will side with them because that's normally how it goes. But remind me how it went in California when Trump did exactly the same thing specific to federal law enforcement?
He won.
Okay. Not initially, though, in fairness. Lower court judge originally said, I don't like Trump, so I'm just going to vote against him. And then it was, I believe, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is very liberal, came out and said, of course he has the right to do this. And he does. Now, if he expands this, if he tries to expand it, I will join the chorus in saying I don't know if this is constitutional. But again, there's been no indication suggesting that that's what he wants to do. Now, here in Seattle, Bruce Harrell, along with Survivor contestant Nick Brown, they held a press conference. It was titled, Don't Leave Us Out. What about us? Bruce Harrell, who is desperate for troops to come to Seattle, He is desperate for Trump to even utter Seattle, because then it puts him in a position where he can bluster and be this hero who's going to take on Donald Trump for the progressive voter base who totally did not support him during this last election. They ended up going with Katie Wilson, and he's doing what Katie Wilson can't, which is be mayor right now. And so he's been really relishing this kind of fight. And so he decided to hold his press conference today, even though the Trump administration has not once said they're sending troops to Seattle.
We do not need the federal government bringing in armored vehicles, semi-automatic weapons.
We leave that for our gang members.
Military personnel to make, quote unquote, us safer. There is not an insurrection here. His strategy, and I'm referring to President Trump.
We know.
His strategy only serves to escalate tensions and continue to breed mistrust. Our message today is very clear. Stay out of Seattle.
He wasn't interested in coming to Seattle. But Bruce Harrell knows that. Bruce Harrell said this because he's daring the president. He's trying to goad him into sending troops here. The end goal for Bruce Harrell is to send troops to Seattle so he can play the heroic mayor. Vote for me for re-election. Katie Wilson can't do this. I will stand up to Trump. He's so desperate. It reeks desperation. It reeks it.
This press conference was like that meme you see online where the person's staring in the mirror like, you get in there and you make it about yourself.
Yes, 100%. But that's what Bruce Harrell normally does, right? I mean, that's his sort of MO. But this was all, and I mean all political. He's issuing an executive order to maintain local control because that will definitely supersede a federal, right to come in and do what they need to on federal property.
My executive order makes sure that we communicate to all of our communities.
Donald Trump might have troops. I have an executive order
that we will protect our local control. And that's why it's so critical that you have all three of our chiefs here, Chief Harold Scoggins, Chief Amy Barton, and Chief Sean Barnes.
Yeah, Amy Barton has literally nothing to do with policing. God bless her. I actually really like her. She's a friend of the show. She runs the homeless outreach portion of this. So she was not necessary. Scoggins is Seattle Fire. Again, has that even been a conversation in any city? Has Trump said, we're also taking over the fire department? No, he hasn't.
That we will strengthen our policies to prevent unconstitutional and unlawful encroachment on the roles, responsibilities, and jurisdiction of our public safety system and ecosystem.
Survivor contestant Nick Brown.
There is no force in American politics that is more reckless and destructive than the current president of the United States.
Can we ever get like a non-nerdy sounding attorney general? Is that possible? Because I look around the country, there's some really good ones. Moody was really great in Florida before she became sick. Like, I want that. Enough of these nerds.
And I think the escalation that we are seeing in Portland,
Jackson, you could
following
be an
what
AG.
happened in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C., that escalation is part of a bigger strategy.
So what's happening in D.C., which is, again, completely separate from here, has been a rip-roaring success. Have you noticed no one is complaining about D.C. right now? Isn't it weird? The authoritarian-in-chief put his Gestapo out on the streets, and yet now no one is saying anything. It's almost like it's been a success. And maybe that's why they're not saying anything, because once you see that this is a success, people might say, well, we want it. We want some help.
I think the only thing consistent from the president's policy is that he indeed is attacking the people and places that didn't vote for him or that he views as in opposition to him.
What state is Memphis in?
Tennessee.
Red state?
Yeah.
Is that part of the conversation?
I don't think so.
Nashville?
Tennessee, red state.
Okay. Is that part of the conversation?
Yeah.
There's a little bit, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he did mention this, so is that? But red state.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is he going after Marsha Blackburn?
I doubt it.
Okay.
And Washingtonians have spent many years loudly and clearly rejecting his vision for America. And is it entirely possible?
Just real quickly, Nick, Donald Trump did better in this last election than he did before. Granted, it was still a blowout. We always expected that. But he did actually pick up votes in Washington state.
Based on the president's comments and those in his administration, that what we're seeing in Portland will be attempted here.
He wants so badly. I've never seen local leaders so desperate for a fight with Donald Trump just so they can say, we took him on. And everyone so far who's taken on, there was I think it was the Washington Post that did this. On Friday, they had posted something looking at all the different cases against the Trump administration that have been brought. And I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was like 22 went his way, 2 did not. Like it was incredibly imbalanced. And why is that? Because you've got, sure, on the local level, judges who will side against Donald Trump because they don't like him, but ultimately the rule of law wins out as it's supposed to. This is lawfare. We talk a lot about lawfare going after specific people, enemies, with the intent of throwing them in jail. But another piece of lawfare is what it is we're seeing from Democrats, which is we're going to get in front of every single policy that we can from this White House, and we're going to at least slow it down via the courts. But thankfully, we have a Supreme Court that's saying, yeah, no, we'll start using the emergency powers here just to move things along because we know exactly what it is that's happening. And it's wrong. It's immoral. It's unethical. It's illegal. Where this all ends, I guess we'll find out in a few days how bad it's going to be. I'm sure they won't prove our point and make it even more violent and dangerous. There were at least 2 arrests last night. There was a whole lot of assaults that didn't lead to an arrest, but there were arrests last night, and there will be arrests tonight and tomorrow and the day after, especially Friday and Saturday.